Welcome back. Now, Umkhonto Wesizwe Party and its Deputy President, John Hlophe, have suffered a legal blow. That's because the Western Cape High Court has declared the National Assembly's decision to designate the impeached judge to the Judicial Service Commission as unconstitutional and invalid. It also ruled that the appointment should be set aside. Hlophe was found guilty of gross misconduct after he allegedly tried to influence justices at the country's top court in a case relating to former President Jacob Zuma back in 2008. The Democratic Alliance approached the courts, arguing that Parliament acted irrationally when it agreed to Hlophe's recommendation by the MK party. All right, let's talk about this a little bit more. Let's get reaction then with the Democratic Alliance's spokesperson then, who joins us for this one. That's Karabo Khakhau. Karabo, thank you so much for the time. One might say, considering the past, this was perhaps the obvious slam dunk decision, but let's talk about your sense of this decision and the ruling that was made.
Hello, Arabile. Thank you for having me, and hello to your viewers here at Newzroom. The sense is one that we welcome as the Democratic Alliance, and I think the rest of South Africa also welcomes, because this is a victory. It's not only a victory for the judicial system, not only a victory for the way Parliament is supposed to look at itself and conduct itself moving forward, but it's certainly a victory for the people of South Africa. People of South Africa who need a representation that is sober in all levels of representation. And so we're very happy that it is section 165 of the Judicial Authority that's found in chapter 8 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. Subsection 4 of it makes it very clear that organs of the state, I want to read it here, organs of the state, through legislative and other measures, must assist and protect the courts to ensure the independence, impartiality, dignity, accessibility, and effectiveness of the court. And this is the grounds upon which we have argued as the Democratic Alliance that we cannot have a former judge who's impeached because of his misconduct that has been proven in tampering with the outcomes and the dealings of the court, serving in a Judicial Service Commission, a commission that is very important, that deals with important matters such as the appointment of other judges across the land. So it is a victory that we are happy and welcome as the Democratic Alliance, and we're happy that we fought in the right direction. Happy we were able to uphold the dignity and the effectiveness of the court system.
What does a decision like this, however, say perhaps to Parliament? Because it's the acting of Parliament that even created this to begin with, and of course then having to take it to courts ultimately to then be reversed. What does this say to Parliament, do you think?
It says Parliament must understand that it does not live in isolation to this book, Arabile. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa is the supreme gospel law that governs the workings of Parliament. So any decision that Parliament takes must be consistent with the provisions of the courts. Yes, of this Constitution. Yes, we never imagined that we would have a disgraced judge moving from one arm of state, being the judicial arm of state, and now participating in democratically in the legislative arm of state. But even that as it is, of making sure that it conducts its way, it weighs in its orders or its affairs in a way that is consistent with the Constitution. We didn't even need to go to court for Parliament to know that there is such a provision in the Constitution of the Republic, given that they are there to uphold the Constitution and give effect to it. So we're happy, and we also understand that in the past, Parliament has had a very lazy approach to how it upholds the Constitution, given the majority authoritarian rule of the ANC in the past. But gone are those days now. We're never going to have a Parliament again where people get to hear from Luthuli House what they must think and whether it's inconsistent, even if it's inconsistent with the Constitution. Parliament must now be able to take ownership of the fact that they were wrong in not applying themselves properly as far as the Constitution is concerned, and make sure that we don't have the same problem moving forward. But as far as the Democratic Alliance's participation in this case is concerned, we're elated that the rule of law has been upheld. Yeah,
let's talk about the credibility of the judicial system, which you continue to stress test, of course, as your party as well then. Does that remain intact, do you feel? Does that continue to remain in such a manner that it upholds those values that you continue to speak of, taking this decision, but previous decisions into account as well?
Yeah, I think we still have confidence in the courts, 100%. I mean, this case itself is another opportunity for us to see that the courts work. And that is why, as the Democratic Alliance, we timelessly, in cases where there is a constitutional question or a quagmire politically, we take it to the court so that we can get the resolution that is important, particularly because the principle of democracy says that we can't have arms of state operating in complete silos. They're supposed to operate independently, yes, but essentially they're intertwined and they derive their mandate from one book, and that is the Constitution of the Republic. So if the legislative arm of state, the executive arm of state are in contravention of the provisions of the Constitution, then we're very happy to have a court system that works to make sure that at least the judicial arm of state is able to correct then the misgivings of the executive and the legislative arm of state.
Yeah, do you have a suggested person then to hold that position then at the JSC? Would you be putting that forward as the DA for a recommendation of sorts?
That decision hasn't been taken yet. We haven't sat as the DA to say this is who we're going to delegate there. You would know that during the process of nominations for political parties, we nominated our own candidate there, and that person is beyond reproach. That person was not found guilty of any misconduct as far as the manipulation of decisions of the court is concerned. That person is not a disgraced judge altogether. Our political party doesn't harbor such weird people. We're not proponents of state capture. We're not proponents of corruption. We're not proponents of maladministration altogether. So you would never find such weirdness in the DA. But of course, you would find that in the MK party, given the history of the political party itself and the figures that it harbors as a home for. But that's not a DA problem. It is a South African problem, however, and that is why the Democratic Alliance sought to take this court case head on to challenge and make sure that the people of South Africa can still have trust in its courts, so that the people who preside over cases that make or break the lives of South Africans, from where their properties are, from rape to murder and everything else, are free from political tampering.
Well, what you will find, however, in the DA is the national spokesperson, Karabo Khakhau. So thank you so much for the time this afternoon. Appreciate it, and for joining us here on Newsfeed PM there.